The Sword in the Stone is an odd movie that seemed to lose its funding midway through. You can notice that some scenes are very nicely animated, and others were in such a rush that they left the pencil sketch marks on the frame. There are cleaners just for this purpose. Unfortunately, when a movie runs into time and/or budget issues, we usually get something mashed together that doesn't make perfect sense, and The Sword in the Stone is no exception to that rule. For instance, Merlin is constantly preaching to Wart that he needs an education that includes math, history, biology, natural science, French, and other textbook knowledge. Yet Merlin turns Wart into a fish, a squirrel, and a bird to teach him life lessons instead? Huh? Something that made even less sense was when Merlin and Archimedes the Owl were talking about Wart's love of jousting, and Merlin says he hates that because
that boy's got real spark, lots of spirit, throws himself heart and soul in everything he does.
Merlin then says that he plans to channel those positive traits in the right direction, which sounds like a great caring teacher, right? Well, it would have if Merlin hadn't continued by saying,
I plan to cheat, of course. Use magic. Every last trick in the trade, if I have to.
Every trick in the trade if he has to make Wart into what he kind of wants him to be. And not to ruin anyone's childhood here, but that seemed like an ominous statement. So I began looking at this movie from different angles. Well, it turns out that The Sword in the Stone had an alternate opening in the original script. Wart was supposed to be the missing son of King Uther, the good king who died and made it so that no one could decide who the rightful ruler was. And Madam Mim was supposed to be there from the beginning, scheming to keep Wart lost in the woods so that she could take over the throne. That version would actually make more sense as to why Wart was able to pull the sword from the anvil. Notice, anvil, not stone. So it should technically be called The Sword in the Anvil, but I guess Sword in the Stone was way catchier. Anyways, another detail that caught my attention in the alternate opening was that Merlin says that he moves backward in time and Archimedes moves forward, so between them, they know everything. That cut line really resonates with other dialogue left in the final version, especially in the beginning when Merlin's at the well kind of cursing out this century for being so awful.
No plumbing, no electricity, no nothing. I'll hang it all!
We also know that Merlin can somewhat see into the future, and at the end, Merlin says that he just got back from the 20th century. So this wizard is definitely all wibbly-wobbly with time. Look, Merlin's even there in the background when this, quote, miracle sword comes out of the sky. People from the Dark Ages couldn't tell the difference between magic and divine intervention. Now, since we kind of have to accept that Merlin can time travel, if we think about his odd promise to make something out of Wart by cheating with magic, the movie suddenly makes a little more sense. In short, I believe that Merlin created the Sword in the Anvil for the sake of making Wart the King of England. If we actually stop and read the inscription on the sword, it says, "Whoever pulleth out this sword from the stone and anvil is rightwise king born of England." It's almost like that enchantment that Odin put on Thor's hammer. Like, the sword doesn't have an owner, it just stipulates that whoever is worthy can wield the sword and thereby use the powers of Thor, the King of England. Remember, Merlin gets mad and shoots himself off to Bermuda, but he also had to time travel to the 20th century by his own words to get there. Knowing that Wart was already headed to London, what if Merlin just went back in time 10 years and created the Sword in the Stone to look like a miracle from heaven, thusly creating this circular, self-fulfilling prophecy? Merlin is cheating the system by using magic and his natural ability to move backwards in time. He wanted Wart to be something, and so Merlin made Wart into something. And the fact that Wart was Uther's actual son was just serendipity that Merlin didn't realize until everything was said and done. Or if you prefer the alternate opening where Merlin officially lives backward in time, then Merlin created the Sword in the Stone because he knew who the rightful heir was. But the version of Merlin in the film hadn't lived that part of his life yet, so he didn't realize that he had created the sword and the anvil at that point in time. Either way, Merlin vanished before Wart got to London, and Merlin was both angry and desperate to get Wart on a path that Merlin felt was suitable. So it makes sense that Merlin would create the sword and the stone to make Wart a king. Or at least it does in a crazy time-traveling loop sort of way. Yeah, I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. Well, that's all I have for now, but this video's not quite over yet. I get a lot of comments that say, do a theory on this topic, but I've already done those theories. So please consider going to my main channel page and clicking on the video tab so that way you can see everything I've done. You will probably find a lot of things you like that you never even knew that I posted. I want to let you know that I also have two other channels, Say Halo Goodbye Gaming and the Fanily Family Vlogs. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to hit subscribe and share. I can use all the help I can get to let other people know that this channel exists. And if you made it this far, leave me a comment that says something like, hey, I made it to the end, and then let me know what kind of videos you want to see in the future. I can't make any promises, but the more people that request something, the more I can look into it. Okay, well, I love you. I'll see you in the next video.